Discover heartwarming transformations. 5 truck owners expose incredible surprises coming in 2025. In the heart of Silver Creek, a small rural town where memories linger like the scent of fresh-cut grass, 5 truck owners prepared for the annual truck show, an event that promised horsepower, chrome, and heart. Jake, a 38-year-old mechanic, wiped the dust from the hood of his vintage Ford, the one he and his late wife had lovingly restored. Each shine reminded him of her laughter, urging him to keep that spark alive, especially for their spirited daughter, Emma. This show wasn't just about trucks. It was a sanctuary of stories, laughter, and shared struggles, a place where connections ran deeper than the blood in their veins. As the sun rose, casting warm hues across the gathering families, excitement buzzed in the air. Hot dogs sizzled, children squealed with delight, and the sweet aroma of homemade pies drifted through the crowd. But amidst the laughter, an ominous shadow loomed. A wealthy businessman arrived with promises of a brighter future, proposing to buy the showgrounds for luxury condos. For many, this felt like a betrayal and erosion of their heritage for dollar signs. The town split like a cracked windshield. Some residents welcomed change with open arms, envisioning opportunities and growth, while others, including Jake, clung to the past. The weight of economic insecurity pressed heavy on his chest. Memories of Emma playing tag around the trucks intertwined with images of their struggles since losing his wife to cancer. Would he sacrifice this tradition for the sake of progress? Each truck owner felt the strain as the unity that once bound them began to fray. Jake glanced at his friends. There was Tommy, the quirky artist who had shelved his dreams to care for his disabled brother, and Leroy, the retired mechanic whose history with the show ran as deep as the roots of the ancient trees surrounding them. Tensions escalated, fueled by fear and resentment. Would their bonds survive a changing world? The air thickened with anticipation as Jake wondered whether he could juggle his grief and articulate the dreams his wife had for their family. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amidst the rising clash, Jake stepped forward, illuminating the silence. We are more than our trucks. They represent the sweat, tears, and laughter of families, our families. My wife dreamed of this day being about more than horsepower. It was about our community. His voice wavered but grew steadier, revealing the sacrifice and love that lingered within him, igniting courage in others. As faces began to glisten with unshed tears, the crowd listened intently. This unexpected emergence of heartfelt stories transformed the showground. Tommy found his voice, explaining his artistic vision, and even Leroy shared how the event had shaped his life. Suddenly, the space between them shrank, and the air buzzed with a shared purpose. But the bulldozers loomed closer with each passing day, their presence a constant reminder of the fragility of community ties. As Jake faced his friends, determination coursed through him. Could they show the true value of their heritage? Would they stand firm against the tide of modernization? Or would Silver Creek forever change, taking with it the beauty of connection that bound them all? The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the fairgrounds. Jake could feel the anxiety in his chest, but he masked it with determination. He glanced out at the sea of familiar faces. They were his people, all gathered for something that meant more than just cars and engines. It was about history, togetherness, and shared dreams. The faint sound of a guitar strummed in the distance, drawing his attention. "Emma," he called, spotting his daughter tangled in laughter with a group of children. Her eyes sparkled with innocence and hope, an untainted reflection of the past he longed to preserve. She waved enthusiastically, her ponytail bouncing as she darted back toward him, carefree and full of life. "Daddy, can we enter the pie-eating contest?" she asked, her voice bubbling with excitement. Jake chuckled, kneeling to her height. "Only if you promise to save some pie for me at the end." She laughed and agreed, unaware of the unspoken tension rising among the adults. As they walked toward the contest area, The weight of impending change loomed over Jake. The businessman's proposal hung like a dark cloud in his mind. Many parents nudged toward modernization, imagining jobs and new stores, but they had no idea what it would cost: the loss of their beloved traditions and the spirit of Silver Creek. Amid the festivities, Jake spotted Leroy huddled in a corner, sketching furiously. He approached him, sensing the man's unease. "Hey, what is going on?" Leroy looked up, eyes weary but bright. "Just capturing this moment. Sometimes I think about how life is going to change. I know we can't stop it, but I want to remember this. The stories, the laughter." A pang of emotion hit Jake in the gut. "We can fight for it, Leroy. We have to try." "Try?" Leroy scoffed lightly, packing his sketch. "What do we have against rich men's money? They see the land as a dollar sign. They don't see the memories." "Maybe not, but we can make them see." Jake clenched his fist, determination flooding back. "If we share our stories, they'll understand that this place is alive. It's not just land, it's family." Leroy nodded slowly, a flicker of inspiration igniting in his eyes. "You know, I think you're right. Our history could make a difference." The conversation hung in the air like the sweet smell of pie cooling on a windowsill. Jake felt a surge of hope. They couldn't be the only ones feeling this way. He gathered around the small group, calling out for his friends. "Everyone, we have to come together. Let us show them why these grounds matter." The crowd slowly began to gather, and he could see familiar faces nodding, eyes lighting up with understanding. With every story, every laugh shared, they could paint a picture of why this show was vital, why Silver Creek had to remain untouched. "Let us share our histories, put together a fight." The enthusiasm grew, echoing through the crowd. Each truck held a story, a piece of themselves that no one could take away easily. Suddenly, the weight of the world felt a little lighter. But just as he began to feel a sense of unity, the mayor stepped onto a makeshift stage, clearing his throat. The crowd quieted down, but Jake could feel his heartbeat quicken. What was he going to say? "Folks, we have an important decision to discuss." Before the mayor could finish, an unexpected figure stepped forward from the back of the crowd. As the familiar face emerged, Jake's heart sank. It was the businessman, and he was grinning, a smug confidence plastered across his face. What did he want now? Jake clenched his teeth, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Could this be the moment that changed everything? Would their stories be enough to keep Silver Creek alive? What price were they willing to pay for their heritage? The crowd held its breath as the businessman stepped up beside the mayor, his grin only widening. Jake shifted on his feet, sensing the unease ripple through the gathering. Somehow, this wasn't just a simple presentation. It felt more like a challenge. He exchanged glances with Leroy, whose brows furrowed in concern. "Thank you, Mayor," the businessman said, his voice smooth and confident. "Hello, everyone. My name is Howard Jameson, and I'm here to discuss a unique opportunity for Silver Creek." He paused, glancing around to gauge the crowd's reaction. "I understand many of you are worried about change, but let me assure you, it doesn't have to mean losing what makes this town special." Jake felt his stomach churn. Each word seemed to paint a picture of shiny storefronts and bustling activity, but he could hear the echoes of fading memories and traditions in the air around him. Howard continued, "Picture this, a revitalized downtown, where we honor the nostalgia of your beloved fair while ushering in a new era of prosperity. Imagine a truck show that not only showcases your cherished vehicles, but also draws in visitors from miles away, supporting local businesses with new opportunities." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some faces were intrigued, while others turned skeptical. Jake raised his voice, shouting from the back, "And at what cost, Howard? You can't just erase years of history for a quick buck." A handful of people joined his call, expressing their worries, their fears. The businessman's demeanor shifted slightly, but he remained composed. "I appreciate your passion, truly. But is it not worth considering what could be for your children? A life filled with options, a future where they don't have to leave Silver Creek for jobs? That's just it." Jake shouted again. "We all want what's best for our kids, but they deserve to grow up knowing where they come from. This town is woven into our very identities. You can't just buy that." As he spoke, a sense of urgency washed over him. This wasn't just about trucks and pie-eating contests. It was about relationships and legacy, the soul of Silver Creek itself. He turned back to the crowd, looking into the eyes of his friends and neighbors. We have stories, people, stories that matter. We can show them why Silver Creek is irreplaceable. Leroy stepped forward, holding up his sketches. Each one of these captures a moment, a memory. We can't just toss them away. The crowd began to rally behind them, voices rising in unison. Jake felt a wave of hope flooding back. This was their moment. But Howard, wasn't he done yet? I understand your concerns, believe me. But I'm here to make you an offer, a community event that brings both sides together. A fair that highlights your heritage while opening doors to new possibilities. You can have it all. Jake's heart raced. Was it a trap? The whispers of agreement and caution swirled around him. He stepped forward, ready to confront Howard directly. What is your real plan, Howard? He demanded, his expression resolute. Can you promise us our traditions will still matter? Howard's smirk faltered for a split second before returning with practiced ease. My intention is clear: progress for all, and I believe families like yours will find a place in this vision. As Jake glanced over his shoulder, the faces in the crowd reflected a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Would they take a step toward the future or hold on to what mattered most? The decision weighed like a stone in his chest. Would he find the courage to fight for Silver Creek or get caught in a web of change? Suddenly, Emma's voice cut through the tension. Daddy, can we still have the pie contest? Her innocent question reminded Jake of the heart of Silver Creek, the simple joys that shaped their lives. Just then, the mayor spoke again, attempting to regain control of the energy. Let us discuss this together, folks. We can find common ground, he urged. But as the uproar began to rise once more, Jake sensed it was now or never. He took a deep breath, ready to secure their heritage and fight for what they cherished most. In that moment, he realized the stakes were higher than he had imagined. As the voices rose and the drum of uncertainty pulsed through the air, Jake's heart hammered. What would his next move be in this battle for the town he loved? Who would stand with him when everything hung in the balance? The crowd buzzed with energy, voices clashing like waves against the shore. Jake scanned the faces around him, searching for anyone who shared his convictions, anyone who would stand tall in this moment. Leroy looked back, a mix of determination and worry on his face. Jake nodded. They had to fight this. People, he called out, his voice steady but laced with urgency. This isn't just about a fair. It's about saying no to erasing our history. It's about keeping Silver Creek alive for our children. We can't let them grow up in a town that forgets who it is. A ripple of agreement threaded through the crowd. Some folks raised their fists, others nodded fervently. Emma tugged at Jake's sleeve, her large eyes wide with concern. Daddy, are we going to lose the fair? He knelt down, meeting her gaze. Not if we all fight together, honey. We have to stand up for what we believe in. As he stood back up, he noticed Howard's perfectly crafted smile fading. The slick businessman was losing ground, and Jake felt emboldened. Howard, you keep talking about progress, but what about our kids learning the value of community? That's important too. Not everything can be measured in profits. Howard took a deep breath, his poised persona still intact. I understand where you're coming from. This is a delicate balance. But I assure you, my vision includes your traditions. A modern fair blending the old and the new could be a celebration we all enjoy. The murmurs came alive again, uncertainty hanging like the thick smoke from the old fairground's barbecue. Jake's heart raced as he stepped closer to the podium. A celebration? Look, Howard, it's not about shiny rides or new attractions. This fair is our history, its pie contests, homemade jams, and the stories of every family that helped to build this town. What will be left of it amid your plans? He could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes on him, the energy shifting. Howard's smile wavered for a moment, caught off guard by Jake's conviction. Then, like a seasoned performer, he regained his composure. I want you to think about this. Progress doesn't erase our roots, it builds upon them. Jack shook his head. Progress can drown us if we're not careful. I've seen it in other towns, and I won't let it happen here. As Jake glanced over his shoulder, he caught a glimpse of Emma, her little fingers wrapped around a vibrant blue ribbon, a reminder of her last pie contest win. Memories washed over him with such force. The laughter, the joy, the bonds formed within those moments. Who stands with me? Jake shouted, his voice rising above the tumult of the crowd. Let us show them what Silver Creek really stands for. A surge of people around him expressed their support. A woman in the front waved her hands energetically. We won T back down. We protect our heritage. Leroy stepped forward, his voice booming. We can work together to find solutions. We can plan events that invite progress without sacrificing who we are. The crowd erupted, emotions palpable in the air as pride mixed with apprehension. Hope hung heavily in the atmosphere, nearly tangible. But just as Jake felt the tide might be turning in their favor, Howard leaned in close to the mayor and whispered something. The mayor's expression grew serious. The atmosphere shifted again. Hold on a moment. The mayor called out, raising his hands for quiet. We need to weigh all options. Let us open up the floor to discussion. Jake's heart sank. Opening the floor for discussion could mean more time squandered, more chances for changing minds. They needed a definitive answer. Would they come to a compromise, or would it be all or nothing? With his pulse racing, he knew his next move had to be bold. He stepped forward, ready to confront whatever came next, despite the growing uncertainty. Until we find common ground, I want T back down. Silver Creek deserves more than just promises. As he stood there, every fiber of his being urged him to keep fighting. Would they come together to save their town, or would Howard sweep in with his vision of progress, leaving behind only ghostly memories? The defining moment loomed, and Jake felt the weight of 1,000 hopes resting squarely on his shoulders. What would they decide? Jake stood at the edge of the gathering, feeling the electric atmosphere pulse around him. Whispers of uncertainty danced among the crowd, but there was also determination, a defiant spirit that reminded him of the fair's cherished history. He could see faces in the throng, familiar and hopeful, waiting for direction, for reassurance. Listen, Jake shouted, capturing the shifting focus of the crowd. If we can stand up together, we can make sure that our voices are heard. This place, it's like a family. We've walked these streets, celebrated triumphs, and cried through our trials. We can't let anyone take that away from us. Cheers erupted. The energy transformed, firing Jake up. For every person who felt unsure, their support was now a steady wave of belief washing over him. But he also saw Howard at the podium, fingers drumming against the wood, calculating his next move. It was clear, this wasn't over. Now let us approach this reasonably, Howard chimed in, attempting to regain control. You all seem to care deeply for this town, and I can respect that. What if we set up a committee? We can collaborate on the future vision of the fair, blending innovation with tradition. A woman near the front scoffed, crossing her arms. A committee? That sounds like a way to stall progress. Maggie has a point. Someone else shouted. Jake felt the tide turning again. A committee? He echoed, struggling to contain his mounting frustration. Why should we waste more time? We need immediate action, not another round of discussions that might lead us nowhere. Jake, Leroy spoke up, placing a hand on his shoulder, his eyes steady. Let us hear him out. If it means keeping our traditions alive while meeting their goals, maybe it's worth considering. Jake hesitated, looking at Leroy. There was wisdom in his friend's words, but each passing moment chipped away at his resolve. What if this was just another way for Howard to push through his agenda? Fine, let us hear the proposal then. Jake finally conceded, his voice heavy with skepticism. But we must make one thing clear. If Silver Creek's heart isn't at the center of whatever plan is laid out, we will fight tooth and nail against it. Howard nodded, a flicker of superiority crossing his face. I appreciate your willingness to discuss this. I assure you, I want the best for Silver Creek too. Let us set up a meeting soon, and we'll involve community members who feel passionate like you. As Howard continued detailing his vision, Jake fought to hold back the growing anger. Howard had a way of twisting words, of making promises he might not keep. Every syllable made Jake reflect on the struggles that had built their town, remembering evenings spent with his daughter under the stars, sharing stories about the fair and its significance. As the crowd began to disperse, engaged in discussions about the next steps, Emma tugged at his side, her face glowing with concern. Daddy, what if they don't listen? He knelt down, looking deep into her bright eyes. I promise you, they will listen, sweet pea. I'll make sure of it. But we might have to be loud sometimes and brave. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an amber hue against the gathering. Hope flickered in that golden light, a blinding reminder of possibilities. Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose swell within him as people flocked around, sharing stories and memories of the fair. As he prepared to leave, his heart brimmed with hope. There was still a fight ahead. But would it be enough? Would a committee truly honor their history? Or would it smother the spirit of Silver Creek? Tomorrow would shape the course of their beloved fair. And as Jake walked home with Emma, uncertainty flooded his thoughts. How far would he go to protect their roots? The next morning, the air felt different. It was thick with anticipation. Jake awoke early, the sun just breaking over the horizon as he stepped outside, its warm rays washing over him like a promise. He took a deep breath, allowing the cool morning air to fill his lungs, steadying the whirlwind in his mind. Today was the day they would meet, and though the uncertainty loomed, he felt a fierce resolve growing within him. Emma skipped beside him as they walked toward the community center. Her little hand clutched his tightly, and he couldn't help but notice how the weight of the world seemed to hang on her small shoulders. "How will they listen, Daddy?" she asked, her voice innocent but laced with genuine worry. "They will listen because we're making them," he replied, ruffling her hair playfully to lighten her mood. "And because we have something they need to understand the heart of Silver Creek." As they approached the community center, the sounds of bustling chatter filled the air. A small crowd had already gathered, excitement mingling with anxious energy. Jake felt a pulse in the crowd. Their voices rose and fell like a tide, creating a rhythm that beat in sync with his own heart. Howard stood at the entrance, his expression one of calculated calm. He greeted everyone with a practiced smile, but Jake could see the flicker of unease behind his eyes. This was a man who thrived on control, and Jake was prepared to challenge him head-on. The room filled quickly, and they took their seats, Jake glancing around at familiar faces. Families who had been around forever, some who had won ribbons at the fair, others who had hosted games and food stalls for years. Each was stitched into the fabric of this town. A loud voice cut through his reverie. "We need change. We can't let them walk over us." Leroy, sitting directly across from Jake, nodded. "Focus. Remember our traditions. We don't want change that strips us of who we are." Howard stepped up to the front as the cacophony dulled to whispers. "Thank you all for coming. I was prepared for this discussion, and I believe together we can create a vision that respects our past while propelling us forward." His words dripped like honey, yet Jake felt a bitter taste in the back of his throat. He couldn't shake the feeling that a trap lay hidden beneath the surface. Soon, a discussion ignited just as Jake had anticipated. Ideas flew, some bizarre and fantastical, while others felt like fleeting glimmers of hope. Jake watched and listened intently as what should have been a conversation turned into a tug-of-war. "They want to replace the Ferris wheel with a what was it? A virtual reality ride?" Jake blurted out amid rising voices. "Is that what we need instead of the laughter of children on a warm summer night?" The room stilled momentarily, tension hanging like a thick fog. Faces turned toward him, a theater of emotions washing over those who heard the depth of his words. Emma watched him with wide eyes, her brows knitted together. "Jake's right," said another voice from the back. "We want something real, something that connects us." A ripple of agreement spread through the crowd, and Jake felt a spark of hope reigniting. Maybe this was at the moment they would all stand together, united. As the debate continued, Jake sensed the mounting pressure of the stakes. What if the desire for progress overshadowed the soul of Silver Creek? The committee could be a charade to sidestep the intricacies of true community spirit. Just as hope grew, Jake's instincts warned him this was a tipping point. When the crowd finally quieted, Jake raised his hand. "This isn't just about a fair anymore. It's about our identity. What's our vision for the future? Will it reflect our roots, or will it erase them?" His heart pounded as he stared at Howard, their eyes locking in an unspoken duel. With every heartbeat, Jake felt their community's fate hanging in the balance. As the meeting pressed on, it became clear the outcomes could alter the very essence of their town. But would they rise as one and defend what truly mattered? Or would they falter under the weight of change? With every passing moment, Jake sensed the pressure building, both exciting and terrifying. How deep was the fight embedded within them? How far would they all be willing to go to protect Silver Creek? The murmurs faded, and an electric atmosphere filled the room. Jake could feel the weight of every gaze resting on him. Heart racing, he knew this was not the time to falter. What does Silver Creek really mean to us? He pressed on, letting the question hang in the air like fog. Tradition, Leroy shouted, his voice booming with passion. We need to keep what connects us. Set aside fears of change. Howard shot back, irritation flashing across his face. If we hold on to the past too tightly, we'll find ourselves dying in its shadow. We can innovate without losing our roots. Jake caught Emma's eye. She was looking more worried now, her little shoulders tense. He forced a smile, trying to reassure her, but inside, uncertainty bubbled. Did the town care more about nostalgia than progress? Suddenly, a woman stood up in the back, a white-haired fixture of the community, Mrs. Johnson. This is a town where our children play, where we celebrate every victory, big or small. We can't lose that. Her voice trembled with emotion, and the audience responded with a ripple of nodding heads and murmurs of agreement. Inspired by her words, Jake leaned into the energy of the crowd. We all want a future for our children, he said, his voice gaining strength. But let us not let innovation strip away the laughter and memories we've built. The Ferris wheel isn't just wood and metal, it's our childhood. With every sentence, he felt the tide turning. We need progress that honors our history. Let us find a way to blend the two. A fair is more than a festival, it's a connection to who we are. A wave of murmurs rolled outward, concern now mixing with solidarity. It was as if the crowd was awakening from a daze. They were no longer voiceless. They were becoming a chorus, and Jake was grateful for their strength. Suddenly, Howard stepped in again, his voice slicing through the harmony. You're speaking of emotions, Jake, but this isn't just about how we feel, it's about what's feasible. His dismissive tone stirred the crowd, and the tension tightened once more. Feasible? Jake snapped, surprising even himself. How can we put a price on our memories? On the life that runs through this town? We don't just need to survive. We need to thrive as Silver Creek. Silence fell as the room echoed with his words. Howard's gaze hardened, and Jake caught the anger flaring in his eyes. The battle lines were drawn. This was not just about a fair, it was about the community itself. It was about standing firm against transformation that could erase treasured roots. But would they have the courage to face Howard and his relentless push for change? Would they unite under the cause? All eyes were now on him, aware of the stakes lying bare. Then, Emma lifted her small voice above the fray. I want the rides that make me laugh. I want to remember that innocent fervor struck a chord in the hearts of many. Around the room, heads turned, faces softened. From behind the stage, Jake saw Howard's facade cracking ever so slightly. He could sense the shift in momentum. Let us combine our dreams. What if we created something that embraces both nostalgia and innovation? Jake exclaimed, leaning into the newfound hope that he felt the crowd move, a swell of voices, a symphony of support. But just as they were beginning to coalesce, one lone figure stood still at the back of the room, silent and observant. Jake could feel the tension in that direction. Who was this newcomer? What role would they play in the unfolding drama? As emotions swirled and uncertainty loomed, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that a pivotal confrontation was about to unfold. Would the heart of Silver Creek prevail? The tension in the room hung heavy. Jake's eyes were drawn to the figure standing in the back, tall, cloaked in shadow, but unmistakably present. A bead of sweat crept down his temple as his mind raced, trying to fathom the newcomer's intentions. Who are you? Jake wondered silently, uncertainty vibrating in his chest. Howard, sensing the shift, pressed forward, addressing the crowd. We don't have time for theatrics. We need a decision. Right now. His voice dripped with urgency, attempting to drown out the hopeful undercurrents burgeoning in the room. Do we want the fair of the past, or a new vision that reflects progress? Both, cried out a voice from the crowd, a young mother cradling her baby. We can make this work. Why can't we celebrate our history while embracing the future? Nodding heads and murmurs of agreement cascaded like waves, but Howard pressed on. Only if you are willing to make sacrifices, to cut costs, and to lose certain traditions for the sake of modernization. Are you ready for that? Jake felt the crowd's energy swell like a tide. No one is asking us to wipe our memories clean. He turned toward each face, looking for connection. We're asking for a fair that reflects who we truly are. Emma's face was alight with cautious hope, and he drew strength from her. What if we host a contest? An idea festival where old meets new? Where Emma and kids like her can lead discussions on what they want for the future of Silver Creek. That could work. Leroy's voice rose above the noise. We could find ways to integrate modern rides while keeping the heart of our fair alive. The games, the pies, the parade. A wave of murmurs quickened, enthusiasm crackling through the air. Exactly. Jake nodded, encouraged. And we can make it a yearly event, with a special focus on our heritage. But it means we all have to come together, old and new, past and future. Yet, disapproval flashed across Howard's face like a storm breaking. You still don't understand the costs involved. This isn't just about feelings. But before Jake could respond, the stranger stepped out of the shadows, revealing a face familiar yet unexpected. It was Monique, the town's former mayor, a figure of authority who had last supported such changes with quiet conviction. She arrived with purpose, her presence commanding silence. "Let us listen," she said firmly, her voice steady. "Change is daunting, but it doesn't have to mean losing everything. We must evolve or perish, yes, but we have the power to shape that evolution together." A gasp fluttered through the room. People leaned in. Was this the voice they needed? Monique continued. "I have seen both sides, the fears of progress and the beauty of tradition. Let us harness that," she urged. "What if we host a town hall meeting where everyone can share what they love about Silver Creek, what they dream for its future in a constructive way?" Jake felt a surge of hope. That's it. A tapestry of ideas, weaving together the dreams of our past and our aspirations for the future. "You've got to be kidding." Howard scoffed, but the crowd didn't share his sentiments. Their murmurs grew louder, a chorus of support rising against the fading cold of dissent. But there remained uncertainty on faces. Would Howard relent? Would Monique's leadership be enough to guide them? With the crowd ignited, Jake couldn't shake the question lingering on the edge of his thoughts. Would they truly unite for Silver Creek's future, or would the past be a ghost that haunted their dreams? As he scanned the room, he knew the real battle had just begun. The stakes were higher than ever. Would they be able to find resolution before the fair's lifeblood faded away forever? The air was thick with anticipation as Monique's voice hung in the room, resonating with each person present. Jake watched the crowd shift, their faces illuminated by a flickering hope that ignited something deep within him. Monique had a way of bringing people together, a rare gift that stirred the dormant dreams in hearts and minds alike. "What do we want?" someone shouted from the front. The question rippled through the room, sparking a chorus of responses. "Unity," someone declared. "Tradition," another cried. "Change," shouted a teenager, fists raised high. Jake's heart soared, fingers trembling at the potential of rebuilding what had slowly crumbled over the years. Was it possible to fit all these strong desires into something tangible? The idea festival was just a starting point, but he could feel it resonated. It could weave together the fabric of their community. "Let us not just talk." Leroy's voice cut through the noise. "Let us put these ideas into action. How about we appoint committees? Each group could focus on different themes: heritage, new rides, food, entertainment, all of it." Excitement pulsed through the crowd as heads bobbed in agreement. Jake turned to Emma, whose eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, feeling a rush of adrenaline. Emma nodded vigorously, looking as though she could burst with excitement. "It could be amazing, Jake. Imagine the kids painting banners and marching in the parade, sharing stories from their families." "Exactly." He aimed his gaze back at the crowd. "We have stories that are as much a part of this town as the fair itself. Let us let them shine." Howard's face twisted, showcasing his disdain, but in that moment, his voice seemed to be losing its grip on the crowd. "This is all very naive. We are still going to require funds, organization, real commitment. You think a few ideas will pave the road to success? But it's the heart that drives us," shouted a man from the back, fists clenched. "Do you see the passion here? This is what makes Silver Creek special." Jake couldn't help but feel empowered by the declaration. He stepped forward, catching Monique's eye for a fleeting moment. Her look encouraged him to push further. "Howard, we know it'll take work. Nothing worth having comes easy. But this community is worth it." Monique raised her hand, silencing the murmurs. "We can organize a preliminary meeting right after this," she announced. "Every voice matters here. The more we share ideas, the more informed our decisions will be." Applause broke out, infectious and electric, lifting spirits that had been held down for far too long. Howard's annoyance deepened, But even he had to stand amid the rising tide of enthusiasm as the applause faded into chatter. Jake's mind raced with the hope of their progress. But what if they don't come together? He thought. The fear loomed. What if the wounds ran too deep? Would they be willing to let go of old grudges for the sake of a fair? Glancing around the room, he saw the mixture of determination and fear in the eyes of his neighbors. He could see passion, but beneath it lay doubt, a festering uncertainty that could be their downfall. As he gestured for silence, he summoned goodwill to keep the flames of enthusiasm burning. "We can do this together," he called out, his voice steady. "Tonight is the beginning of something beautiful, not just for us but for the generations to come. Let us leave fear behind and focus on unity." The room erupted once more, a cacophony of voices blending into a single powerful narrative that seemed to wrap around them like an embrace. But, in the midst of all this, a question throbbed in Jake's heart. Would they find a way to mend the cracks in the foundation before it was too late? And as the energy swirled like a whirlwind around him, he wondered what would be the first step when they left this meeting. The morning after that pivotal meeting, the sun poured over Silver Creek like liquid gold. Jake sat on the porch, waiting for the echoes of the gathering to settle within him. It had been more than just a meeting. They were standing on the edge of something incredible, a chance to weave their past into a vibrant future. Emma's laughter floated from their backyard, and Jake closed his eyes momentarily, recalling the promises he had made. He turned to face the horizon, a blend of excitement and trepidation swirling in his chest. Would they rally around the Idea Festival? Would tradition and innovation merge without losing what made Silver Creek home? When they gathered again, the spirit was electric. Families filled the community center, buzzing with anticipation. They mingled, sharing stories and hopes in clusters. Jake's heart swelled with pride. Leroy had already invited local artists to sketch their visions for the fair, while Tommy coordinated a booth for kids to express how they viewed the fair's future. "Daddy," Emma tugged on his sleeve, pulling him from his thoughts. "Can I help too?" "Of course." Jake beamed, kneeling to her level. "Your ideas matter most. This is our community, and we need your vision." Emma's face lit up, and he felt renewed strength from her enthusiasm. As voices grew louder, Jake concluded they needed to focus on a shared identity. He stepped onto a small stage, heart pounding. "All right, Silver Creek," he called out, gathering attention. "We've been through a battle for our home. But here we are, ready to rise together." The crowd cheered, their spirits soaked in hope. "We're launching our first town event, a proposal on how to blend tradition and innovation safely. Let us start with an idea festival, where everyone can contribute." A roar of approval washed over him as conversations ignited. Jake felt a surge of momentum. Ideas flowed like a river, pie eating contests mixed with VR games, handmade crafts alongside rides, honoring history while embracing change. It was happening. Silver Creek was pivoting, creating a foundation rooted deeply in their past, yet branching into a vibrant future. All around, community members began sketching plans for banners, decorations, and booths to represent their families. Children giggled as they brainstormed events, their laughter lifting spirits around them. Suddenly, Jake felt a heavy presence next to him. Howard stood, arms crossed, a frown etched across his face. "This isn't a replacement for real progress, you know. Just throwing ideas around won't fix your problems," he scoffed. "Howard, this isn't just about fluff," Jake replied, keeping his voice calm. "This is about heart. We are building something meaningful, and you can't put a price on that feeling, the connection, the love of our roots. Come see for yourself instead of pushing against it." "You're wasting your time," Howard retorted, frustration boiling just beneath the surface. "Or you could help us," Jake countered, the challenge clear in his tone. "We want to show you that progress doesn't mean abandoning our heart. Join us instead of trying to conquer our passion." In that moment, the crowd responded. Voices rang, "Let us show him. And he doesn't understand." Howard, pausing momentarily, seemed to weigh their collective energy. "You really think your nostalgia will attract any real change?" "Yes." Leroy stepped forward. "Because this isn't just nostalgia. This is legacy. The stories of our families united here, they hold more value than you can imagine." As the dialogue flowed, a flicker of realization sparkled in Howard's eyes. Jake sensed a shift. There was a chance for unity even where none seemed possible. If they could help him understand what Silver Creek truly meant, perhaps they could forge a different path forward. Weeks blurred into a tapestry, the preparations for the Idea Festival coming alive with vigor. Children painted signs, parents organized activities, and soon, the fairgrounds buzzed with creativity and anticipation. Their spirits spread through the streets. Neighbors became friends again, the past rekindling with every shared memory. The day of the event arrived, vibrant colors greeting them like a long-lost friend. Families filled the fairgrounds. Laughter and joy danced in the air like fireflies glowing against the twilight. They welcomed one another, feeling the soul of Silver Creek pulsating in every corner, their stories intertwining, weaving hope for generations to come. And there stood Jake, heart pounding, watching Emma dart around. The pie-eating contest began, and the crowd erupted with laughter, a sound that spoke volumes. He could see newfound friendships forming, connections strengthening, and a sense of belonging flowing. In that moment of celebration, Jake stepped forward to gather the attention of the crowd. This is what it means to be part of Silver Creek. We are bringing the past and the future together, honoring our roots while reaching toward new horizons. Thank you for standing with me to save what matters most. Cheers erupted. The crowd resonated with a shared sense of purpose, hearts aligned together. They were a force, a protective barrier against anything that sought to divide them as the sun dipped low, painting the horizon in shades of pink and orange. The glow settled on their faces, reminding Jake that this was just the beginning. They had written a new chapter together, and it was full of hope, connection, and love. Together, they had transformed and not just the fair. Jake felt a sense of peace wash over him. They were alive, and Silver Creek's heartbeat echoed stronger than ever, a melody that would continue through the generations ahead, and each member, each story, would become a part of that legacy. Before turning home, Jake watched Emma up on the stage, her smile radiant, her spirit untamed, composed as she addressed the crowd. "Let us keep making memories together," she exclaimed. With every echo of that laughter and every dazzling smile, he knew they would. And as he walked hand in hand with his daughter, he promised himself and the town of Silver Creek this was their moment to shine beyond the dusk, embracing tomorrow together. Now, this is your moment too. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you won't miss any of our exclusive stories that uplift and inspire. Leave a like right now to feed that algorithm and keep our community growing. Comment below with your thoughts and emotions about this finale. Your connection means the world to us. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness this heartwarming transformation. We're all in this together. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the message of unity and hope.